folks, welcome back to the Commando. Got another update, quick video today. Looking at turn signals and hazards. I say a lot. Looking at turn signals and hazards. Still working on the headlights as well. I guess kind of doing a few things at once here, but I'm going to look at the turn signals first, since I was kind of working along on that and started looking at those, and now that's where I'm going. So that's what this is about. So I have a wiring diagram I found online. Somebody was kind enough to make, and it shows the circuit, the switch, and where the powers come from, and how the switch works, and all that good stuff. I don't know if it's 100% accurate for my Jeep. It says 67 to 71, so I guess we'll see how much AMC changed it. But yeah, gonna trace some wires. I do know that there are two flashers hanging down under the dash, so you can see them here. There's one here, there's another one over here. One of these is going to be up for the hazards, and the other will be for the flashers, or the turn signals. Now, looking at the diagram, the hazard switch is here, and here's the turn signal switch. They do get power from different sources, so the hazard switch gets power directly from the battery, and the, I believe, yeah, turn signals get power from the ignition. So they have power when the ignition is on, and the flashers have power when the battery is connected, which makes sense, right? I mean, if you're on the side of the road and your Jeep is broken down, as they often do, you want to be able to take the keys out, lock it up, and leave the flashers on. So that makes perfect sense. So right now our ignition's off, and we're gonna see if we have power. Battery is hooked up. I have just a little advanced auto test light here, and I've got it hooked up to a known good ground. I tested this earlier I have my cluster still out. If you saw that other video, it's still out from that. But I know I have 12 volts on pin K. So we have F is blank, G, H, J, K. There is no I in the circuit, so it's just K, and we're lighting up. So I know the ground works, and I know we have 12 volts on there, so this is a good test, or at least functional. So let's probe this. We should have 12 volts here, and we do. And if the flasher is good, we should have 12 volts on this side of it too. And we do. I can get the probe in there. There we go. So this must be our flashers. Actually, let's turn the ignition off and test that again, just to be certain. So we have, again, ignition off. This is just battery voltage. There's 12 volts. And there's 12 volts there, or at least power. This isn't the voltmeter, but at least it is sending power. So that's ignition off, so that must be the flashers. So it's process of elimination. This must be the turn signals. So let's turn the ignition on now. We should have 12 volts here. We do. 12 volts on the other pin, and we do. So that tells me that we have power where it needs to be on both sides. Let's turn that off. Let's hit the flashers, see what they do. I did test this before and it didn't work, but I have since cleaned these contacts on both of these a little, just to make sure I get the best chance here. So let's, we got something clicking. Our flasher, our hazard is clicking. Let's check. We have one solitary light in the front, but that's the only one that works. The other one is, actually, it is ever so slightly lighting. So there's probably a wiring issue there. The wiring for that? Nothing, okay. And I can't actually check the back ones. There's a cover on it right now, but maybe I can see through it. And that actually works too. Cool. Okay, Let's go back in the car and turn that off. Let's try our turn signals. That should be left turn. Nothing, not even the faint glow we had before. And I did try this when I bought the Jeep, and I know the turn signals don't work, but just for completeness. So we know our turn signals don't work, our flashers do. Actually, let's try that. Ignition on. Try it again. And still, yeah, nothing. Okay. All right, ignition back off. Okay, so 50%. We have flashers, and it seems like the front and rears work. There is a problem with that left front turn signal light, which seems to be barely illuminating, so there's probably a wiring problem or maybe a connectivity issue in the switch. Turn signals do not work. Nothing works. So like I said, I have this lovely diagram. Thank you to whomever created this. If I can find the place I got it, I'll post the link in the comment or the description. But I found it while searching and just saved it, and I can't unfortunately remember who actually or where I found it. But if I can find it, I'll post it in the description. So next, I guess we're going to trace the circuit on the turn signals. The diagram includes the pinout, and just quickly looking before I set up the video, it looks like the colors on the diagram do match what's in this Jeep, at least closely enough to figure it out. So let's do that. I'm going to disconnect the battery so I'm not using my multimeter in continuity mode on a live circuit or potentially live circuit, and see what we can find. Okay, so here is, we determined this was the turn signal flasher. We've also determined this is the hazard light flasher, so we're not going to worry about that. We know that works. Ignore that for now. We're going to worry about our turn signals. So here's the flasher. Here's all the wiring that comes down from the turn signal switch in the column. I can see we've got a black wire that's cut. And if we look at our lovely diagram here, it looks like number one. Where's number one on the diagram? Oh, I actually wrote it down here. Number one is the horn. Okay, so the horn doesn't work, so that makes sense. All right, so we're looking for the turn signals. Looking at the diagram, this is our turn signal stock, and it looks like this white wire here, is power, runs through the hazard switch. Actually, it comes from the 12-volt ignition source to the flasher, to the white wire, through the switch. So it comes in, it's coming in, let's get up there, phone, up here on this red wire, jumping through the flasher and then into the white wire here. So that is sending power, should go up the column, and it does, it goes in right here. So that's our power. Wire's looking pretty rough. Somebody's already patched quite a bit of this. Okay, so that's our power. And the other half is going to ground, I guess, for the front ones. Let's look at those first. Or the left ones, rather. Left rear, pin number 6, blue. And through this one, yellow one, goes to the left front on pin number 3, and that's a yellow one. So if I pull this down, like I'm turning left, there should be continuity between the yellow wire here on pin 3 and the blue wire here on pin 6, because this switch is gonna, when it comes down, this is gonna rotate over and that's gonna go that way. So before we check anything with powers, let's just see if we have continuity through the switch. And I disconnected the power anyway. So let's check and see when I put the left turn signal on, if I have power, or rather continuity between yellow on pin 3 and blue on pin 6. So let's grab, I'm gonna pull that down for left turn. And we are looking for pin number 6, which should be blue. And there's our blue, and there's pin number 6 according to the diagram. So let's go ahead and connect it. And again, my meter's in continuity mode. So if I touch these, you hear it beep. And then pin number 3 on yellow, which should be this one. So if you look, those are in pins 6 and 3. And if I flip the switch off, or rather turn it off, it stops, on, off, on, and off. So that circuit works. Okay, so now we're gonna check the right. And so we want right rear, pin number 4, and right front, pin number 2. I've got my probe in pin number 4. Turn signal is right turn, it's up. And let's go ahead and get, what did I say, pin number 2. Okay, and let's turn off the turn signal off, back on, and off. Okay, so we know at the very least, this contact between here and here is good, and here is good via this switch here. Or at least these contacts are working. At least enough to get continuity through the circuit. Maybe not enough to carry a good signal, power-wise, I don't know. So that tells me that all this stuff is at least, the switch is at least working to some degree, so let's check and see if we have a power issue. So we have, again, our power comes in off the ignition through the flasher into the white wire. So here's our white wire. Let's go ahead and get our back probe in there. Let's make sure we have good. Yep, okay, so that connects. So what wire do we probe? How do we check this? So let's check the left again. So we're gonna pull it down. So I should, if I am in left turn, again, the switch connects wires, or pin number 6, pin number 3 on the yellow with power. So that should flash, or at least send power to the front and rear left turn signals. So in left turn signals on, I should have power coming in here, and let's just check pin number 6. So there should be, like I said, the power is off right now, but there should at least be continuity across that circuit. We are in pin number 6 and nothing. Let's confirm that is the light blue wire. Nothing. Let's try the yellow. Pin number 3 is our other left turn. That's this guy right here. Nothing. Okay, that's interesting. We have no power on the left side, or at least no continuity across the circuit between the power feed and where it's supposed to be grounding to the lights. So let's check the right. Right rear number 4, pin number 4, and right turn signal is on. Pin number 4 should be orange. Pin number 4. I got nothing. I can feel it hitting the spade connector, the back of that connector. But it's not activating the, let's check to make sure. Okay. Still in that white power feed, okay. Let's see, we're checking the right. Let's check the right front. Pin number 2, right here. That is, pin number 2 is right here. Nothing. Huh, okay. So what does that mean? Let's see. So there must be a break somewhere. I know I have power across the flasher, so the next junction point is on the white wire is up here in the turn signal, or the steering column with the hazard switch. So let's do that. My probe is still in here. Let's check and make sure it's got good continuity in there. We're connected well into the connector there. How do I check it up here without taking the steering wheel off? And you can kind of see the switch in there. It's a hazard switch. Oh yeah, look, there's a white wire in there. So there's our power wire. Let's see if we have continuity up there. We do. Where is it? There it is. So that's our white power wire coming into the switch. This is hard to do through the camera. There we go. Okay, so the connection between our flasher down there with that black probe, where the black probe is right there, that wire is coming up into the steering column, connecting up here. So that's good. Where else does it go? If we look at our, let's see, let's get it from here. So if we look at our diagram, that power literally just jumps right across the front of that switch and then continues around. So if we look in here, you can see that white wire right there. That just literally jumps right across that switch. So let's see if I can get a probe on that. Nothing. So I'm touching that rivet where that connector is attached to the hazard switch, and I have nothing. So it's coming up there and it's not making it to there. So we have a break in the switch. Okay, that's interesting. So if that is in there, the bottom one there should be power coming in. So let's go hook the battery back up and put a test light on that and see if we actually have 12 volts there, and confirm that we don't actually have power crossing that switch. The battery back up, let's get that back on my ground. Let's turn the ignition on, and let's make sure I still have power on my green. My ground is still good, and it is. We have power down here. Nothing. Oops. Up there, no light. So we have a broken power feed or power connection inside of the hazard switch. I'm starting to sense a theme with this Jeep and broken power connections. Okay, so it looks like we may have to pull the steering wheel. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so for the steering wheel, I went to O'Reilly's, and here's the kit that I got on their rental program, 610, or I can't read, 67011 steering wheel puller kit. Includes all this good stuff. So first thing we got to do is get this guy off. So it comes right off. Full disclosure, I have been in here. I have not taken the steering wheel off yet, but I did at least take the nut off and took the horn button out to try to figure out why the horn didn't work at the very beginning. So I'm going to take that off and I'll come back. Horn button off. Under that is the, I guess it's kind of a spring, but you know, it just pops off. If you look how rusty that is down in there, and this too, I did actually take this out and spray it down with WD-40 and sandpaper it, but it. So the puller is hooked up. I found the screws that go into the correct holes, and I'm about ready to take it off, but I thought I might point this out. You see the little tick mark right there on the steering shaft, and there's another one right there on the steering wheel itself. That's to help you line it up. Now this one, it's hard to tell, but it's not quite perfectly lined up. Maybe it is, but the idea is that helps you get it back to what should be centered, and then you can do your alignment or whatnot if you need to get your wheel straight. I don't know if all cars have this or not. If not, then you use something like a white paint pen to mark the relationship of the steering shaft and the steering wheel before you pull it off. In this case, the alignment marks are very clear, so I'm not going to bother painting it, but just something to keep in mind before you start ripping this thing off. It'll help you get it squared back up. If you don't have the dashes, then at least you'll have the paint mark, and it'll help out when you're putting it back together. All right, I'm gonna rip this thing off of here. Hopefully it's pretty rusty in there and probably seized to the shaft, but yeah, I'm gonna try that, and then I will come back with an update. Okay, so that had to get out the 1/2-inch drive ratchet, but it did. You can see it's now free. So cool. Let's get this thing off of here and take a look at that switch. So here's our prize. And again, power is off. There's no battery hooked up, and the ignition is off. So there's our power wire that comes up the column. Here's the other end of it. It goes around town here into the switch. And here's all the other wires that we were testing earlier. That switch looks pretty bad. Here's our horn. I'm assuming that's our horn button. There's a metal contact on the bottom of the wheel there that rubs on. And you can see there's a lot of, maybe you can't see because of the phone, a lot of debris in there, and it looks like copper shavings or metal shavings, so I'm guessing, yeah, that column bearing might be gone, or whatever little bearing is down in here, but not worried about that right now. We're worried about the switch. All right. So now that we have it apart, I'm going to start by cleaning this thing up, because this is just a complete disaster in here. And let's clean this thing up and take a look at what we can do for perhaps pulling out the switch. I was hoping I'd be able to see more, but this is in there. It's going to need to be taken out, I guess, and then I can flip this over and see what's on the back side of this, because maybe there's something I can do to either clean that and get the connection back in place, or worst case, I do see a lot of corrosion on here, and based on the amount of rust that was in the steering wheel and the amount of force it took, you can see how rusted, like I said, focus there, so you can see how rusted this is. That was stuck on there pretty good. The column itself, the cavity for the horn button and where the nut goes were completely rusted up too. So we'll see. Let's continue working on this and see where it goes. Okay, so I scraped a little bit of the grunge out of there. There were just 2 screws holding this part of it down, so there's one there and one there. There's these little things there. And while that does get the switch up, unfortunately the bottom of it is also sealed. So I don't know. This thing is riveted together. So if there's some contact inside of the switch between these two that is either rusted apart, corroded apart, or just not functioning. I don't know. Putting a jumper wire across here seems like a bad idea, but clearly, I mean, it's routed internally for a reason. I know I priced one of these before I even started this just to get an idea, and they were about $100 for a new one, and it requires snaking all of these wires down the column and all the way down to that connector. But you're not driving a car, at least not legally, without turn signals and functioning hazards. So I don't know, fix this now or fix it later, but at some point it's going to have to be fixed. I'm going to keep looking at this. Maybe there's some way to pop this apart and look at the inside of it, but it's not looking good. Okay, so I've been looking at this thing, And I do not see any way to take this apart without destroying it. I did run a multimeter across here, and it does feel like power is, I do have continuity from the far side of the switch up to here where it connects to the actual turn signal. But I also noticed that when it's engaged, I do have power in a few places where I shouldn't, at least according to the diagram. Continuity between the white wire here and the various signals on here. So I don't know, maybe there's something inside the switch that is not only broken here, but in the actual turn signal switch. Perhaps one of the contacts is broken or shorting. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. This is likely the original switch. It doesn't look like this thing's been taken apart too many times. And this is pretty well faded and just completely oxidized and plastic's coming apart. So I may have to just get a new switch. But for now, I found out what I need to know. That the reason I don't have turn signals is because the power connection is broken here. And even if I had power here, in testing the switch here, it seems like activating the switch would likely send power in places where it shouldn't. I wouldn't. I mean, if I could turn the thing on and get power going through it, I would find out quickly. But I don't know. And the horn button also has very little continuity between the bottom of the switch, top of the switch, or the plug down there where we saw the wire cut. So somebody has modified that at some point, and this is probably why, because this just didn't work. So yeah, now we know. I'm going to put all this back together for now, and maybe leave the steering wheel a little bit loose so I don't have to use the puller again when I get the new part. But there you go. If anything else cool happens, I'll turn the camera back on and get you an update. Okay, so oddly enough, I just put this back together and was going to test power again just to see. So here's my power on one side. Before I did not have power over here. Now I do. So clearly my monkeying around with this switch has done something to it. I have power on both sides now, so what does that mean? I now have a functioning, I can feel the flasher flashing, and my one working front marker light is lighting. Interesting. The awesomeness of this electrical system never ceases to amaze me. Clearly I need a new switch, but it seems to have kind of sort of at least healed itself. I have no idea, but yeah, there you go. At least that confirms the rest of the circuit works, and that if I replace this switch, that it should fix the problems, or at least most of them. And the left turn signal, that left front bulb is still very dim, but it is flashing. So there's another problem to chase there. Awesome. Okay, so I'm done with this for now. My phone's out of storage. I'm running out of daylight. But hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was informative. Unfortunately, it looks like I need a new switch. Easy to get, but they're about $100 plus tax and shipping. And then I have to install it, which looks like a whole lot of fun. But either way, at least I have an answer. I know what's wrong. I know what I need to do. And now I just have to break down, buy it, and fix it. So thanks again for tuning in, and stay tuned for updates and whatever else I happen to have time to video and put up.